A very long time ago, a viewer had commented on a video saying, Bloodborne, but you can only use nothing, which brought me to the question, can you beat Bloodborne using nothing? Now, this shouldn't be taken literally because to actually do this, I would make my character and just mod or glitch my way to the credits, and that's no fun. So these are the rules for the run. Rule number 1, I cannot use any weapons, armor, runes, or items, which means no right hand or left hand weapons, no armor to mitigate damage, no runes that help with the damage or stats, no vials for healing, no beast blood pellets to help increase damage, no blue elixirs to sneak past enemies, no combat items, and sadly, no pebbles, which leaves me with only being able to use my bare fist for damage. Rule number 2, leveling is allowed. I do this because some bosses wouldn't be possible without it. Number 3, no summons, gotta do this on my own. And lastly, I must beat all bosses in the game. Before we continue, let's talk about today's sponsor. I was looking at my setup one day and realized my browser was looking straight up basic and completely out of place next to the rest of my rig. It just didn't match the vibe at all. So I said screw it and downloaded Opera GX for free. With Opera GX, you can expect a browser that actually feels like it was custom built for your exact setup instead of some generic window sitting on top of it. GX mods let you completely transform the whole thing so it matches your rig perfectly. You get insane animated and reactive wallpapers that make the browser disappear into your desk, background music that slaps while you're editing, custom keyboard sounds, shaders that instantly grade every website to fit your aesthetic. You can mix and match everything until it feels scary accurate to your whole setup. You also get a super clean sidebar where you can log straight into Twitch for live notifications the second your favorite streamer pops on, plus Discord and other messaging apps. All themed so nothing breaks the palette. Then the interface is ridiculously flexible. You can dial in opacity, blur, vintage, everything until the browser blends seamlessly with your monitor and lighting, like it was actually part of the hardware and not just open on it. The best part is, once you nail the look, you save the entire preset with one click and switch the entire vibes whenever you want. Now look at this final setup. Everything ties together perfectly. The wallpaper stays the absolute hero, speed dials are clean and matching the theme, sidebar icons are on point, bookmarks tucked away in folders, zero visual noise anywhere. Just pure premium desk level polish. My browser went from feeling basic to looking like it was forged specifically for this rig. Intentionally synced and actually cool to stare at while I work. If your current browser is holding your setup back, stop torturing yourself and get Opera GX for free. The link is in the description and pinned comment. With that said, let's get this party started. I start off by naming my character Nothing because that's how I'll be feeling by the end of this run. For the class, I decided to go with the Professional since it has a 15 in skill and I will need a lot of skill to help out with the visceral damage. With my character done, time to head to Yharnam. First off, let's talk about the fists. The fists have an S scaling in strength and skill, but with only a base damage of 25. It has no durability, which is great. They cannot be upgraded or use gems, which is not so great. In both its trick and untrick form, it does physical damage, and the unique thing about the fist is it has a charge L2 in its untrick form, which will be very important for some boss fights. With that said, I knew my base level of 10 was too low to take on any bosses, so I ran around the city collecting as many items and armor as I could to sell all of it to the vendor to level myself up. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the game, you start with 0 insight, and I can't use Madman's knowledge to gain any, but when walking into a boss room, you also gain 1 insight. So I went to the Gascoigne fight and just quit out. When doing this, it will put you back at the fog door and I can keep my insight. With now having insight, I can level up. Sadly, even with selling everything, I can only get to level 17, and for Gascoigne, I wanted to be around level 20 for some reasonable damage. So with that conundrum, I went to the streets, did a little bit of bowling with the locals, and fisted a pig a few times, until I could finally level myself up to 20. With my leveling done with, I was ready to take on Father Gascoigne. Father Gascoigne ended up being a lot harder than I expected. My plan was to just lure him into a corner and fist him from behind until he transforms. But for some reason, I could not get the loot to save my life, which is weird because I have done it before and there's even a video showing how it is done. My only conclusion to this is for some reason the fist can't do it. So I abandoned that idea and just went for straight backstabs, which did not go so well in the beginning. One of my strategies was to just dodge to the right of his uppercut and hope he would jump so that I can get a to backstab in. This did work, but Gascoigne 90% of the time did not want to do this consistently, so after a few hours of trying, I decided to change up my strategy and just go for a quick sprint around his attacks and immediately do a charge R2. Funny enough, this worked out very well. Not only did this work on his axe form, but it also worked on his halberd form, which made it possible for me to get him to transform. For his wolf form, I just baited out his jump attack to be able to get backstabs off to finally kill him. This fight was a hard one. I ended up dying 47 times. The stats of the fight should be on screen for those who want to see how long the attempts were and how many punches were thrown in total. With that first roadblock dealt with, I headed to Old Yharnam, leveled myself up to 23, and took on the Blood-Starved Beast. As crazy as this sounds, the Blood-Starved Beast wasn't too bad. With being able to just walk or dodge to her left, it gave me lots of opportunities to get backstabs off, and this was the first fight where using the charge L2 came in very handy. With being able to do a charge attack from the left side, I didn't need to perfectly be behind her, which led to consistent backstabs. Now, what wasn't so consistent was the visceral. Even though I was right behind her, for some reason it would not give me the visceral, and this didn't just happen once, but multiple times. Just some good old jank from FromSoft, I guess. The only other issue was the lock-on system fucking me over when I was trying to backstab her during her poison AoE. 2 times this happened where the lock-on system pulled me in front of her to miss the backstab, which led to me getting poisoned and dying, but on my final attempt I was able to pull it off. I ended up only dying 5 times. With me done fisting the Blood-Starved Beast, I made my way through the Healing Church workshop to get the doll's clothes and the umbilical cord. And yes, I had to use the umbilical cord. It must be used to get access to the final boss, so it is exempt from the no items rule. Once done at the workshop, I opened the shortcut back to the lantern, sell some doll's clothes, and level myself up to 32. From here, I decided to take on the Witches of Hemwick since they were going to be way easier than Paarl or Amelia. Unfortunately, the universe wanted me to suffer, and I ended up dying multiple times. I'm honestly impressed with how I constantly got cucked during this fight. But besides that, I just ran around fisting some grannies for a good old time. After I was done having fun with some freaky witches, I decided to give Paarl a good old shot and proved to be a bit of a challenge. So after dying 3 times, I decided it would be best to try Amelia instead, and oh boy, was I in for a rough time with this one. Amelia was definitely better than Paarl, but she was no walk in the park. With her wide swinging attack and her egregious feet hitboxes, I was having a hard time playing aggressively against her. What I ended up finding was I could bait out her jump attack and dodge to it to get a charge attack off on her legs. Unfortunately, when doing this to the right side of her, I would hit her arm and not the leg. For those who do not know, breaking her back legs let you visceral her. So I repeated this strategy until I was finally able to get my first visceral off, which got her close to halfway. The depressing part about this is when Amelia gets below half health, she can heal herself. The worst part is she just doesn't just do this once, she can do this 2 times in a row to take her health from 25% all the way back up to 55%. That's some straight up bullshit. This is a massive issue since from my knowledge she does not have a limit on how many times she can heal, which left me with a pretty difficult puzzle to solve, but with multiple hours of trying, I was able to figure it out. My strategy for this fight was to break her left leg and get her down to half health. I then let her heal her left leg and I start hitting both legs up to the point of breaking, so that after I break one leg and get the visceral, I can immediately get to the other leg to break it to get another visceral off, which should kill her. The only reason this can work is in her second phase, she gets a second jump attack that allows me to hit her right leg. I just have to spam roll afterwards because I will get stunned by her leg and she always follows up with an attack. As easy as I'm making this sound, it is much harder to pull off. Amelia's AI wouldn't always play nice, she would just refuse to jump, or I would miscount how many times I hit one of her legs and I would end up breaking it too soon, which would lead to her healing back up, resetting all my progress. It also didn't help that I was only doing 1,259 visceral damage. I ended up having to level myself up to 82 to give myself a fighting chance, and even at this high of a level, I still died a lot. But I kept persevering and eventually I was able to get the double break I needed to finally kill Vicar Amelia. After experiencing Amelia as Miyazaki intended, I decided I needed an easy win, so it was finally time for the Cleric Beast. Cleric Beast wasn't hard at all I had to do was bait out his jump attacks and smack his head for a visceral. What I did not take into account was how much I sucked at hitting his head, but finally after 2 viscerals, 40 punches thrown, and a total time of 6 minutes and 38 seconds, the Cleric Beast went down. After shoving my fist down the Cleric Beast's throat a couple of times, I once again went back to Paarl, and I'm still not ready for him. Gave him 4 tries and decided it would be best to take him on much later since my damage was a bit low. So after that quickie with Paarl, I opened up the doors to the Forbidden Woods to get the Tonsil Stone so that I could take on Amygdala next. But right before that, I went to the clinic to get the Cainhurst letter for later. With that done, I went get myself whisked away to the Nightmare Frontier to do some voodoo magic to skip Miyazaki's favorite environment to fight the blue giant. Overall, Amygdala is dealt with the exact same way if you would fight him normally. Just bait out an attack and hit his head. The only weird thing is I can only get 1 visceral off on him even though he healed his head. I've gotten multiple viscerals off on him before, but for some weird reason I could not get a second one with the fist. Besides that one weird thing, everything else was normal. Except I played a bit poorly and got hit 1 too many times, but no worries, I kept my cool as usual, and I was easily able to... Fuck. I would like to say I beat him the next try, but my luck would not allow that. It ended up taking 3 deaths, 1 visceral, 382 punches thrown, and a total time of 1 hour and 4 minutes to kill the big blue freak. With that unexpected ordeal over with, I decided to reward myself with some levels, so I leveled up to 89, and I just want to get this out of the way. Yes, I used the Com Dungeon for levels. As much as I would love to just kill enemies for hours on end, I would rather save my time, and chat's time, so we can actually enjoy the run. With that said, I made my way over to the Forbidden Woods to finally pull off another speedrunner skip that I have failed at before to take on the piece of shits that are the Shadows of Yharnam. I personally thought the Shadows were going to be relatively easy fights since it isn't too bad to run around them when they attack to get backstabs off, and for the most part I was correct. What my peanut brain did not take into account for was the sword guy and the candle guy being up each other's asses the entire time. I thought I could easily separate them with the tombstone or by baiting out an attack from the candle guy so I could just punish the sword guy, but I was extremely wrong about this. Most of the time I could not separate them, which led to me getting punished when trying to get to the sword guy, or worse, I did get them to separate for the sword guy to not even do an attack for me to be able to get the backstab off. Due to this circumstance, it completely destroyed my idea of weakening the sword guy before killing the fire guy, so I was forced to kill the fire guy first without weakening the sword guy. Which just sucks because the second phase, the sword guy becomes extremely annoying with his whip attack, and him and the candle guy cannot get off each other's dicks for a second. On the bright side, you can backstab the sword guy right at the end of his transitioning phase for a backstab, so at least something good came out of this. After a few hours of trying this, I finally caved once more and leveled myself up to 117. I'm not a fan of giving myself too many levels, but this fight was so rough I had to for my own sanity, because this fight was driving me nuts. Every time I fought them, the fights would last around 7 to 10 minutes, just waiting for the AI to give me an opening to finally attack while having to deal with the motion blur non-stop since I couldn't stop running for a second, but finally, after 3 hours of trying, I was able to pull it off, thank God. So my overall strategy was to weaken the fire guy to about half health and then make him bait out an attack to then backstab him with a charge L2 to instantly kill him. With him dead, I immediately find the sword guy to get a backstab off from the transformation. With that done, I only needed 1 more visceral to get him to about 10% health. From here, I ran for dear life until I finally found an opening to punish one of his sword combos. At this point, I took my time and waited for the safest time to strike to kill the sword guy. With the sword guy out of the way, I beelined it for the candle guy and prayed he would stay in the loop, because at this point it would only take 1 hit to kill me. But I am happy to say he didn't break it out of the loop, and I was finally able to kill the Shadows of Yharnam to end my personal nightmare. After regretting my life choices, I went back to the Hunter's Dream to level my strength up to 40 to help with the Rom fight. Once done leveling, I ran through Creepy Man Manor to get a key to the lake so I could go skinny dipping with some spiders. Rom actually wasn't that bad of a fight, all I had to do was kill her children and then slowly smack her to death. The only trouble I ran into was the lack of endurance to help kill the spiders faster. So after dying 2 times, I went back to the Hunter's Dream and bumped up my endurance to 20. Once doing that, I had no issues was killing her children. With only Rom left, I only had one opening to get hits in, and that would be when she rolls on her back, making it a relatively quick victory. After that fun skinny dipping party, I figured it was finally time for me to seriously take on Darkbeast Paarl. Upon doing this, I realized I should have killed Paarl first, because now I made the run back even longer to get to him since the lantern at Hypo G in jail is no longer working. Yeah, definitely didn't think that one through. Either way, time to solve the puzzle, that is Paarl. Paarl was a bit of a tricky fight. With his fast movements and his body taking up 90% of the screen, it was pretty hard trying to figure out what was going on. My first strategy was to just break his back leg and then go for his head while he was down, but the hitboxes of the fists are not that great, and most of the time they would miss, so I abandoned that tactic. My second idea was to go straight for his head using the lock-on system, which did work once, and every time after that, not so much. With both of those two ideas not working, it left me with only one option, rolling through his AoE attack. This is something I knew about, but I always failed at it, but for this challenge, I had to figure it out, and I'm happy to say I did. The trick I found was when Paarl is starting to raise his neck up, that's when you want to roll. If you do this too soon or too late, you will get hit. It's a pretty precise timing, but with learning this, I was easily able to roll through the AoEs to get hits on his head and front legs for consistency in a visceral. It ended up taking 1 hour and 33 minutes of trying to win. Once done solving the puzzle that was Carl, I rewarded myself by leveling up a bit. With that done, I figured it was time to take on the one Reborn. Shouldn't be too hard of a fight, and I died 12 times with no wins. I thought I could bait out the arm attack on the ledge for an easy victory, but the one Reborn shut that idea down real quick. Not knowing how to deal with that giant child bastard, I figured I deserved a quick sucky from the local aliens. Hey, space aliens, dear viewers, get your minds out of the gutter. After that happy ending, time for plan B, eradicate the space children, except they proved to be much tougher than I thought. I gave it 4 tries and figured it would be best to try another boss. So I used my Canehurst letter to enter Hogwarts for possibly the last time in my life and take on Martyr Logarius. Shockingly, Logarius wasn't as difficult as I thought he was going to be. Logarius is similar to Father Gascoigne in the fact that you can run around most of his attacks to get a charge attack off for easy backstabs. Well, I say easy, but it did take me 5 tries to even get 2 off to get Logarius to his second phase. In phase 2, he actually becomes easier since you can bait out his jump attack to roll under him to get a backstab off for a visceral. It did get scary on my winning attempt with having less than half my HP, me messing up some of the viscerals, Logarius getting his sword storm attack off, and me almost dying near the end. But I somehow able to keep my composure to get 2 more baits out to become the new headmaster of Hogwarts. After Avada Kedavra Logarius, I get my vitality to 50 and strength to 51 to have a rematch with the one Reborn. I really wish those damn witches would have taken plan B. Speaking of plan B, let's see how these space children are doing. Still kicking my ass and making me eat shit like the middle schoolers from Step Brothers. Alright, back to the oversized fetus then. The trick to the one Reborn was to outright cheese him. To do the cheese, you just need to head to the back left staircase and wait for him to slam his head through the wall. You can just slap the head a few times and repeat this pattern without being attacked by the witches or the one Reborn. Normally, I try to avoid doing these cheeses, but the one Reborn does absurd damage, plus I hate doing this fight with low damage. Don't worry, dear viewers, Lud, Laurence, and Moon Presence will punish me enough. Plus, for the fact this fight took 53 minutes alone just to kill him, that in itself was torture. Speaking of torture, I run through college campus where everyone is suffering from crippling debt to make it to the Nightmare of Menace, where I have a spiritual awakening to get dom on by a giant lady. You know, the typical college experience. To then find everybody's favorite boss, Micolash. Micolash is fought the same way you would normally fight him, kill the trash mobs, strafe around in circles to get backstabs, make it to phase 2, repeat strafing in a circle, but this time throw some punches in for chip damage, and finally get a backstab off to annihilate his health for a chill first try. We call him Micolash for a reason. I then come across a fair maiden who's also in crippling despair like myself, so I helped her out real quick. After doing my good deed for the year, it's time for Murgo's wet nurse. who can rightfully go fuck herself along with Miyazaki, because what is this bullshit hurt box on the boss? You can see I'm clearly hitting the wet nurse, but the boss is not taking any damage. I understand the game wasn't designed for fists, but still, I should not be literally hitting the boss and no damage being done. This was one of the challenges of the fight, learning how to position myself to get hits in consecutively, which was making sure to hit her arms, not her back. The second challenge was not dropping the ball near the end of the fight. This didn't just happen once, but 4 lovely times. As the saying goes around here, wouldn't be an Accain run if I didn't die near the end of a win attempt. When fighting a boss for nearly 20 minutes with not being able to get hit more than a few times, the pressure and concentration can get to you sometimes. Especially when you lose almost all of your HP right near the end. But not this time. This time I wasn't gonna let this shitty ass nanny win. This time was my time to lock in. This fight will forever haunt my nightmares, but thank God my suffering is over with. For now. Of course, after the fight, I pop the umbilical cord, stare into the abyss, wondering why I would decide to do a run like this, and then go back to space alien child abuse. I thought I could beat the celestial emissaries by just doing the good old hit and run strat, but that proved to be harder than expected. What I ended up having to do was slowly kill off one alien child at a time until I got their health to halfway. Once at half health, the main body boss will hunch over, giving you a chance to get a backstab off. The thing is, the timing is a bit tricky, so I messed it up a few times, but finally on attempt 10, I was able to get the job done to end this fight. With Ebrietas up next, I decided to get my vitality up to 70, which did not help that much. Ebrietas is known to have the worst or some of the worst hitboxes in Bloodborne, and when practically needing to no-hit her for a kill meant this was not going to be easy. It was so hard, in fact, I never even got close to her second phase in 10 attempts. Feeling like she was going to be harder than Ludwig, I figured I would go give him a shot. It was a very short shot. With Ludwig pounding me into the ground, I went get some more levels and hoped to make Ebrietas more doable, and she reminded me why I dislike her so much. It was at this point I wasn't too sure what to do to beat her. I could bait out her head slam attack, but even then when she enters phase 2, I have no way to counter her AoE tick damage. I tried for a good while and just had no luck. I even went level myself all the way to 302 and she still obliterated me. Feeling like I had no other choice, I decided to cheese Ebrietas. You can do this by leading her to the pillar on the right hand side of the arena. Once behind here, you just need her to do a charge attack and she'll get stuck behind the pillar. From here, just bait out head slam attacks to get hits in for a visceral. After doing the visceral, Ebrietas will be floating in place for you to smack away. As stated before, I don't like doing this and there probably is a way to beat her without cheesing and just using nothing, but with the weight of Ludwig coming up, I needed an easy win. Before going back to Ludwig, I make sure to get the final umbilical cord and use it. With that out of the way, it's time for the ultimate challenge in this run, Ludwig the Holy Blade. I don't have any words for this fight. I don't even know how to describe the suffering that went into attempting this monster. I spent hours trying to get Ludwig to his second phase by trying to bait out head attacks with his jumps or his long spit attack. It took 6.5 hours before I was finally able to get Ludwig to his second phase. To not even last a single minute after that, and every attempt after, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I'm so tired. I think I'll just take a little nap.
Please, that's head ahead. Climb up. Rise.
You were at my side all along. My true mentor, my guiding moonlight.
Alright, enough of that over-dramatized shit, let's get into how I won this fight. Let's start with Ludwig's multi-slash attack. For this, I would dodge the first slash and then dash into his second slash on his left side. Here, it's very important that I walk to the outside of his leg. By doing this, it will trigger Ludwig to continue attacking, giving me time to do a charge attack while keeping me safe. Going near his stomach or inner thigh can lead to you getting hit by the follow-up attacks, so the outside leg tactic gives me the guaranteed way of not being hit. This attack can also be baited out by staying relatively close to Ludwig, and was the fastest way to get a lot of damage off on him. The only other attack I would counter in this mini phase 1 is when Ludwig would do a small leap attack. Technically, Ludwig has more openings to get hits in, but Ludwig likes to do his backstep attack if you're super close to him for too long. So to reduce being hit, I only ever attacked when he did his multi-slash or when he jumps. I repeat this until Ludwig is at about 75% HP, and then he goes into phase 1.2 as I like to call it. Here, Ludwig can now do his charge attack, spit attacks, dive bomb attack, and the thrashing attack, which needs to be avoided at all costs. The thrashing attack occurs often when being close, so to prevent this, I no longer dash into an attack when Ludwig does his small leap. Instead, I dash back and follow up with a hit to the head and immediately run away after. In this phase, I still have the multi-attack to get hits in, but the added benefit of getting headshots in with the long spit attack by running around to the right side of his head to get a charge attack off, or after the dive bomb attack, I could roll forward and back to get a headshot in. A key note for the dive bomb, I needed to make sure I never got pinned into a wall, so I would make sure I was always positioned where I had room behind me to run to. For Ludwig's dash attack, I found it best to be close to him while strafing to the left. By doing this, it gives you enough time to dodge his attack and lets him fly past you. This attack's hitbox lingers for a good bit, and it practically covers his entire body, so if you're too far away when this attack happens, the odds of getting nipped are very high. By being close, this gives me about a 95% chance of not being hit. The other 5% is if you get unlucky and you're next to a wall when he does this attack. With all that said, I repeated this pattern until I got a head break for a visceral, which would lead to phase 2. But a quick note about viscerals, to make sure a visceral is performed, make sure your left analog stick is not moving, because if it's not in its neutral position, you will punch the piece of shit in the face instead and waste the 3 microseconds you had to get the visceral. That now brings us to phase 2, which is more straightforward. For here, the key to winning is being on Ludwig's sides. By being on his sides, it'll make him do wide sweeping attacks, which are very easy to dodge. Majority of the time, I would dodge to his left side since I found that would be the safer side of the two, but if I saw Ludwig doing his hilt slam, I would dodge to the right. The reason for this is that Ludwig can follow up with a hilt attack that is a 2-hit combo in the shape of a V, and dodging to the right puts me in a position to not get hit by it. The only attack that I would run away from was his AoE one. This one you just dodge 2 or 3 times back, wait for the AoE to go off, and then get close again. After most of Ludwig's combos, I could get basic attacks in to eventually break him for the visceral, which will then change Lud's attack patterns a bit. In this phase, he gets his saber attack, which the same tactic in dealing with the AoE works here, but after the small force push happens, run around Lud to get free hits in while he is slamming his sword down. The only other attack that changes is his 3 hilt slam. He can now follow up with a left side slash attack, but with dodging to the right, I am in no harm of getting hit by it. So all I had to do was keep repeating all these steps until I got the final break for the visceral to end my 14.5 hours of struggling. Well, with that extremely fun fight that people will want me to do blindfolded next, it is time for how I internally feel, the living failures. This fight is very straightforward, just backstab to win. Hard part though is getting an opening to get the backstab. With all 4 oversized alien children running around, it makes openings very hard, so what I ended up having to do is spawn camp them. When you first enter the fight, you have time to run to each of the 3 spawn points and smack them from behind. After that, just needed to get an opening with one of them doing an arcane cast to get behind them. This will then push them to phase 2 with the meteor shower, where I could lure them behind the sunflower to safely get backstabs off. Except, come to find out, if you are using the single hand, its charge attack will reach too far around and hit the boss's arm, which will not give you the backstab even though you're behind them. To fix this, I just had to two-hand it so that my hitbox is more narrow to guarantee the back hit. With that, I won't have any issues winning, except I'd like to gamble, and lost that gamble on my 3rd attempt. No worries though, on attempt 5, I learned to put my gambling aside, for now, to win. Which now brings us to Lady Maria. Funny enough, she wasn't hard in the way you would think, it's more about figuring out the positioning to get backstabs off. Phase 1 was the hardest since you can't bait any attack out. I found for her long combo attack you can dash behind her, walk to the side, let her do the combo, and right at the end lock off and manual aim for her back with the charge attack. With the single hand having so much reach, you can hit her back by doing this, guaranteeing you a visceral. You can also do this after a single slash by strafing around her. What's even funnier is that when she tricks her weapon, which normally makes her harder, it actually becomes easier to get the backstabs off. Same as her untrick form, you can just strafe the single attack or her combo to get a visceral, and she really likes to do these attacks, so it wasn't too bad to pull this off multiple times to get her to phase 2. For this phase and phase 3, all I had to do was keep my distance, which would bait her to do a charge attack, which I could dodge to the left of, unlock, and manual aim for the backstab. Just repeat this until she dies. It only took me 16 deaths to pull this off. After those 2 easiest wins, I figured I should go get Laurence out of the way since he will be way harder than the rest of the bosses. Laurence was an interesting problem to solve. I thought initially I could do the leg loop that I found in my torch only run, but the issue there, or I had to get him to the point of doing that, and even when I got there, he had a very good chance of nipping me with the attack, bringing me to do a lot of trial and error to figure out a strategy. The first thing I found was that if I stayed close to him, I could bait out his 3 slam attack, which on the 3rd slam, I could get a headshot in. The bad part here was it felt inconsistent. Sometimes I would break his head super fast and other times it would take forever. Come to find out, if you try to hit his head from the middle, you'll be pushed into his chest, no longer hitting the head, or you'll have a chance of your arm hitting his massive arm instead. Meaning, no head break. After multiple hours of trying to figure out what was going on, I got the idea to strafe to the right and then dash to the left to put me on the left side with his small arm, and sure enough, by doing this, I could hit his head every time. Meaning I only needed to repeat this 3 times until his head would break for a visceral. Now, he wasn't consistent on always doing this attack, so I had other openings to get hits in. When he does his 3 sweeps, I would dodge back and wait for the 3rd swing to dash in and get a hit in. If he does his grab attack, I could stand back for a charge attack. If he does his single slam attack, which is indicated by him raising his giant arm, I could run behind him and then get a charge attack off on his leg. If he does his 2 swing combo, I would dash back and then run in and lock off to hit his big arm multiple times. When he starts doing his jump attacks, I could dash back once or twice depending on my position to get a hit in. When he starts to flail himself to the point on the ground, I could walk back, let him finish, and then slap him. The last time to get hits in is when he's regenerating parts. All I had to do was get 3 viscerals off with consecutive hits to get him to phase 2, where the game becomes walk to the left and only hit him when he spits fire from his front or back end after he finishes his multi-slam attack. after his large sweep attack, and lastly after his small slam attack. The key here was to be patient and not get greedy, which took me a few tries to calm myself down, to keep my cool and get the win on my 67th attempt. With only 3 bosses left, that just leaves Orphan on the chopping block. Now, this one was easy to figure out, just bait out jump attacks and get the backstab for phase 1, but I found that a bit boring, so I tested around to see if I could backstab after other attacks, and you can. The 2 easiest in phase 1 is when Orphan is swinging his placenta around, you can dash to the right at the start of the attack and then walk to the right to be behind him for a backstab. The other is when he does his overhead slam, just walk around. You can even get a backstab after his 2 swing combo and his small AoE attack, but I wasn't consistent with these. For phase 2, you can get one at the end of his transition, but the really cool thing you could do here is after it, walk to his left side to loop him into doing his multi-slam attack, which you just need to walk around him to dodge it and get the visceral. Except I fucked it up most of the time, losing the loop, so I ended up going back to walking under the slam attack and getting a backstab after he summons the lightning waves. For this one, make sure to wait a second or two before the visceral because you want the iframes from it to not be hurt by the lightning. Also, don't get greedy like I did and think you could just run up to Orphan that was 2 hits away from dying and get yourself killed. In these types of runs, it's much safer to play it safe and just wait for the backstabs for the win. With Orphan no longer being an orphan, it was time for Gehrman. My first thought was to just backstab Gehrman after his scythe jump attack, which I learned about in my pimp run many moons back, which worked out great, except I forgot once his HP is lowered, he will trick his weapon. This becomes an issue because my damage was not great and I had no clue if I could even backstab him in this form. So I just kept trying and trying until eventually I noticed his roll shotgun attack left a small opening for a backstab if I walked around it. I tried this for a while with no luck, and then all of a sudden I got it, which meant I had a chance to get him to phase 2. The timing for this is tricky because you need to be close to not get hit by the shotgun, but not too close so that he rolls too far away from you. On top of this, he has a second roll attack that is a slash, which I had a hard time figuring out which one was which, leading to me getting hit a lot. But with some more practice, I got him to phase 2 where you can get a backstab after his transition. Just make sure to start the charge right before he finishes his scream. Once in this phase, it was just bait out scythe jump attacks for the win. If only he was nice enough to do that. It took multiple attempts until I got the RNG I needed to win. Luckily, I only died 26 times. It could be much worse, and speaking of the devil, it's time for Moon Presence. So in all my runs in Bloodborne, I never once had to learn this fight because she was so easy. All you had to do was pressure her non-stop, get the visceral, and win. Except this time, that was not the case. With doing so little damage, it just wasn't possible to just DPS her to death. No, this time I was forced to spend hours learning her moveset to figure out how to beat her. This run took the easiest boss in the game and made it one of the hardest bosses in this run. There are multiple key factors to win this fight. First is keeping a medium distance to bait out jump attacks and tail attacks. The jump attack I could get 2 hits in, but it's safer to just do 1 because there's a chance MP will retaliate. For the tail attack, just need to dodge into the attack or wait for the first tail swing to miss to run towards her to get hits in. Another note for being at medium distances is that MP will do a multi-combo swing or her charge attack. For the multi-hit combo, at the end of it, she will swing both arms that you can dodge into her to get a headshot in, and for the charge, I either have to dodge back a few times or just dodge forward to get behind her right swing. Now, if I am close to MP, I will dodge to her right. By doing this, it will cause her to turn, which I can get at most 3 hits in. When being this close, I have to be ready for her to do a backstep attack, her wind-up attack, her small lunge attack, or her uppercut attack. If it is the backstep, I need to dodge 2 times in a row or dodge once backwards to not get hit. If it's the wind-up attack, I can just walk to her backside and get a charge attack off at the end of it. If it is the uppercut or the small lunge, I can just dodge or strafe to the right to repeat the 3-strike process. This will either lead to a head break or lowering her HP enough to enter phase 2 where she will siphon all my HP. When this happens, ideally I need to get 2 charge attacks and then 2 or 3 light attacks. But this isn't always going to work depending on the situation I am in. Sometimes MP is super far away or she surrounded herself with blood spheres that when popped do 1 HP of damage, but when you're at 1 HP that means death. I initially thought in this phase I should just go for another head break, but it's a waste of time and too risky. It was easier to just go for the same attack patterns as before. The downside is that MP can now do a point blank jump attack that will kill me since I can barely recover any HP and was the reason for most of my deaths in phase 2. Really no trick for this one, just dodge to the right and hope you timed it properly. I also reduced the amount of attacks I would do so that I would have time to dodge away if I needed it. The real main way to damage her in this phase is when she does her siphon attack. For this attack, she just sits still, letting you smack away, making it the best time to get damage in. The only upside to this whole fight is that even if I got hit a lot, I really only needed a small amount of HP for phase 2 to stay in the fight, so I didn't have to reset like I did for Laurence or Ludwig. With that said, I figured it would be fun to show off the last 30 seconds of this fight. Enjoy. And with that, Moon Presence goes down, and to answer the question, can you beat Bloodborne using nothing? Yes, yes you can. I want to shout out Phantom Eevee for being the madman who counted every single punch in these boss fights. That's not even a challenge I could handle. Thank you Eevee, I really appreciate you. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. At this time, I would also like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my runs, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or over on Twitch at Accain Gaming. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.